All right. Hi, everyone. Good morning, ma'am. So we
Good
have
morning.
Miss Sujatha Sriram with us today. She's experienced in psychological counseling and special education, and she has 20 years of experience working as a counselor and a special educator. And ma'am is also a mindfulness coach, a master trainer, and has been working as a wellness coach for the last 15 years. So thank you, Sujata ma'am, for joining us today. Welcome aboard. So
Uh, Happy morning to all of you. It's a pleasure to be doing this topic because I can talk more from my experience rather than figuring out and talking to different people who are already going through it. The best experience tells you how to overcome it and make it as a lifestyle adjustments and adaptation so that it doesn't feel like an adjustment anymore. It just feels like you're living a life with gluten-free diets. So, good topic to be initiated on.
so the
So,
topic at
I'm here
hand,
to
the
get to
topic
know
at
what you
hand
want to
today.
know.
Yeah, for just to tell our viewers about it, it's viewing a gluten intolerance from a psychological lens. And ma'am, you being a gluten intolerant yourself, I think you'll be able to provide us with the knowledge and the experience that you have gained through, dealing with this problem better than anybody else. Discussing this with somebody who's just a third person, but not dealing with it. So I think you're the best person to, throw some light on how it affects one's life and all the psychological uh, perspectives that come along with it. So this is a part of the Health Fest, which is one of the initiatives taken up by the Durai Foundation. That is basically spreading the awareness about, various physical and mental health issues. So as you've already been associated with the Rai Foundation for too long. So it's basically a community-based organization which is working on a rehabilitation for every sector of the society, starting from special education, counseling their parents, working for sex workers and transgenders, right? So we are basically the interns over here, and we have studied cases trying to view, physical conditions from a psychological lens. And today, one such case that we have in our hand is the gluten intolerance, and how it affects a person's psychological perspective, right? So, a physical condition of gluten intolerance basically tells us that a person cannot ingest gluten, right? But apart from all the physical problems that it comes with, there are a lot of other issues that happen, right? Which are basically unspoken and nobody talks about them, you know. So, and there are a lot of gluten related issues which have recently surfaced, right? It has just grown tremendously in the past few years. So, could you please tell everybody mainly about the gluten related disorders and the non-celiac gluten sensitivity?
The gluten related disorders are mostly connected, like how we know, is intolerance towards wheat, and not just wheat, but also products which are connected with wheat, like you have semolina, rava, and you have maida, and all the processed foods. So, when you talk about gluten related disorders, you also, after a point, you realize that it is hand in hand with lactose intolerance as well, which initially one may not be able to judge and understand it. Then it also leads to, in future, when you, after a few years, when you eat chapati for many number of years, not knowing that you have gluten disorders, it becomes more like a serious celiac issues. So there are certain intestines related disorders which crop up. So it starts with simple gluten related intolerance, but when you are not aware of it, when you overlook at it and say, oh yeah, everything is fine, I've been eating chapatis for donkey's years, so I don't think so I have all those things, and it is just a mild rash or something like that, because it manifests first in the form of Actually, it manifests more related in brain first, because gut is the second brain, which we usually call. So, but many of us are not aware that it has already manifested in your brain, but then it shows a physical manifestation, because of which we then start come to know that whether you have gluten intolerance or lactose intolerance or celiac disease. But from my personal experience, most of the doctors initially diagnoses as autoimmune. So they do say, they give a lot of different jargon. So a new person who's not really aware of gluten sensitivity really gets scared. Oh, I have some autoimmune disease, I will not be able to come out of it. They make you go through series of tests and all those things. But in India, especially, unless the patient themselves is aware of it and insist on specific blood test or a prick test which talks about whether you have a gluten intolerance, I think none of the doctors even think about those terms. And it is the interest of the person who is going through that trauma, uh, initially figures out through their own experience, or whether they have gluten related disorders, or they have celiac related disorders, or they have lactose intolerance, and then work towards that. So one issue leads to multiple issues, like you have rightly said. It is not just a physical disorder, but it also leads to psychological disorders, which from my own personal experience, I can share a little bit more as we go on.
Thank you, ma'am, for, just giving us the basic intro about being gluten intolerant. And according to the case in hand that we have today, there were a number of physical symptoms the case was experiencing, because it's a mother and her daughter. So the daughter was diagnosed with gluten intolerant when she was 2 years of age, but the mother got diagnosed when she was 42 years of age, right? And it started from physical symptoms like diarrhea, abdominal pain, ingestion, and they had itchy eyes, when they ingested gluten, knowingly or basically mistakenly, right? So, and it is also known that gluten intolerance has different physical symptoms for everybody. It's not the same physical symptom for everybody, right? So can you just tell us, how it affects the mental health, having having experiencing different physical symptoms, and if it is difficult at all to eat a gluten-free diet?
Yeah, well, it is difficult to eat a gluten-free diet, especially in an Indian setup where you can't follow a structured routine unless you are at home. You go to functions, you go to different festivals, then you have every third month you have some festival coming up. So then coping with totally a gluten-free diet, unless you are very, very mentally strong and believe that gluten-free diet has really changed your mental being, I don't think so one will be able to follow a consistent routine of following a gluten-free diet. The physical symptoms basically starts like you have a rash either on your arms or on your knees, a small reddish patch, and then literally 3 days a week or 4 days a week, you would tend to have immense headache starting from the back of the head. But all of us mistake that, saying it may be because of the heat, especially when you're a tropical climate like Chennai. You will mistake it, oh, it's too much of heat. I have not drank enough water. It's a dehydration. Or I might have got really stressed out at my work. It's a back-to-back thing. I'm not able to give my mind a break. That is why maybe I have a headache. And then intermittently, you would also feel that you feel a sense of disorientation. You would be very much doing a particular thing, but then you will for a minute lack the sequence of it. You would forget for a minute. We call it like brain fog. Why was I here? What was it like I was wanting to do at that particular point of time? And believe me, right from the time you get up after you have your breakfast, there will be this continuous bloated feeling in your stomach. So you literally feel like an anaconda swallowing a lot of heavy meal and then wanting to rest. So physically, you start feeling sluggish. Mentally, you start feeling, oh, I'm feeling sluggish. Let me go to rest. So you want to really go and lie down all the time. And the because when you're lying down all the time, the metabolism goes slow. So there is absolute no interest to do any kind of physical activity apart from your basics, like you go walk a little bit, come back, you want to sit. And also at that point, when you're continuously feeling bloated, you will realize that after a point, your breath starts taking heavy breaths. You will not be taking the normal breath, but you will like, you want to take a deep breath after every 5 breaths, and you will say, okay, now I feel a little bit better. And a lot of people then misjudges, oh, maybe I have a cardiac problem, maybe my lung capacity is not so great, that is why I'm having these. And they start doing their intervention towards working on improving their lung capacity, improving, they go for aerobics, they go for cardio exercise, they go for trekking and all those things, but it's not going to help. And one of the other physical symptoms what you have is irritable bowel syndrome, which is very, very common with any kind of gluten intolerance or celiac disorders. So when you have irritable bowel syndrome, you would not know what food will trigger that irritable bowel syndrome. So when you're at home, it is easier to manage because your accessibility to restrooms and toilets are much more comfortable and hygienic. But when you're traveling, when you're going to work, when you have irritable bowel syndrome, it gets really very embarrassing at times because you have to go to use a restroom because of your irritable bowel syndrome. But you are in an environment where you will be doing some training, or you will be taking classes, or you will be working, and at that you will be in a meeting, and at that point of time you are not able to uh, make a room for you to come out and then use the restroom to manage your irritable. So when that happens, there is a constant juggling. At one part of my brain is saying, hey, I want to flush my toxins out. And the other part of the brain is saying, okay, I'm here, I'm in a meeting, I'm working. So there's this constant battle between your physical body and your mental body. And because of that, what happens is lack of concentration, lack of credibility and full attention in what you're actually, the mindfulness in what you're actually doing now totally gets dissipated. So when you're mentally, you're not with what you're doing, your 100% capacity to do your work will not be there. So, and you also start sweating a lot, especially in your neck and below your chest level, and sometimes below your knees and in your arms. And some of them also develop a strong pigmentation when you are consuming gluten for a long period of time and you are not aware. So when there is a lot of pigmentation, which is what happened with me, when you have a lot of pigmentation in your arms, in your face, what happens is a sense of, oh, how do I look? People will not look at me. And for whether we like it or not, for most of the ladies, when the first point of connect, which we say, hey, I should look beautiful when I meet a new person. So when your whole physical being is not really up to the mark of what you want to project yourself, there is this low self-esteem which fits in, and you tend to shy away from people. You tend to, if you're an extrovert, you become more of an introvert because you don't want to go outside. And when you go outside, there is also this sunburn. So it's a combination, like you already have a pigmentation, you already have a tan. Then when you want to go out, suntan, so it is better I stay home inside. So biggest drawback hurdle is you start forgetting to socialize. And socialization is the main ingredient for our mental being. So that's what happened with respect to your mental health and your physical combo when you have gluten intolerance. So any
Uh,
other thing you would want to know?
yes, of course. Like, ma'am, you mentioned at the beginning of this answer that, being an Indian citizen, we have a lot of social gatherings that we are a part of, and every second day there's a festival that we need to be a part of, and that festival or that particular social event, you know, is related to food, right? So social
Correct.
events, whether it's dinners or get-togethers or wedding functions or any function of that sort, it can be a lot. to take in for the people who are gluten intolerant, because at the end of the day, you can't trust anybody else with your food, right? So according to you, how does one overcome this helplessness of not being able to eat certain kinds of foods of their choice, or not being able to trust anybody with their food, and how
I
do
think
you manage those difficult emotions?
the first thing is to deal with this is when gluten intolerance come. The first and the foremost is you need to accept that you really have a gluten intolerance, especially when you're in an Indian setup. To accept that you have a gluten intolerance, because gluten intolerance for some people might start in young age, but for some people mostly it starts after 40 for the Asian region and people. So then, especially for ladies, when they're reaching towards their menopause stage or perimenopause stage, premenopause stage, it starts coming in. So there is this question: I have been eating roti for donkey's years. What can go wrong? Now, why suddenly it goes wrong? So the unwillingness to accept that you have a gluten intolerance, despite you knowing it for sure, it takes a very long time. So talking to different friends, talking to doctor friends, you should not go to a professional doctor, because they will not be able to understand the social aspect of how much food is important in our culture. So you should always reach out to doctors who are your friends, and some of your friends circle, and then start experimenting it in a limited setup, like your home first. Okay, when there is a festive at home, uh, when you are having foods which are usually made with gluten, don't take that, and see how it feels. Yes, if it feels, oh no, I really have to taste that, then it's that you follow this. I don't know if it's a Japanese or if it is a German based technique, which food we it really helps in regulating the amount of food. Suppose if you are hungry and you eat, for example, one dosa, and you want, or and because we're talking about gluten, let's take roti. Okay, you want to take one aloo paratha, and it is so tasty, and you want to go in for second, and then you should think it in your mind that if I have to eat one, I have to eat three. So will my stomach be able to take three? Okay, if my stomach is not able to take three, if I am not able to eat, because it will feel very full, then I should just eat one. So this, the philosophy, which when I started doing research with food, really helped me to cope with starting it in home environment first, and then slowly applying it. Yes, there will be people who will be saying, you are not eating anything, you want to maintain your figure, you want to look slim. They really don't know the battles which the person with gluten insensitivity have gone in. So the key here is not to get personally offended by those talks, and just take it like, oh yeah, that's how people will talk. But we know why we are limiting ourselves, because we want to improve. So taking ownership, taking responsibility, acknowledging that you have gluten intolerance will really help you to take baby steps to try it out in a limited circle first, and then to a bigger circle, and then to the social gatherings, is what I feel really helped me out. And when you're talking, like I said, you should also talk to medical people, because they will really help you out with supplements. So talking to a doctor who doesn't know you is much difficult than talking to a doctor who knows you. So reach out to people who are doctor friends and friends, who know you for long, and who can say, oh, okay, it's okay. They don't judge you by, you're not eating because you want to maintain your figure, you're not eating because you want to explore different things, you're not eating because your skin is tanned and you want to look beautiful. They don't judge you. So that is the first key, what I say will help you to take charge and try out to move towards, I won't say in India 100% following gluten-free diet is really not possible, because I tried a lot and it really doesn't work out. But at least to 70 to 75%, you can really work it out, and it really improves to a great extent your overall mental health, physical health, and your agility to do different things.
Whatever you said, ma'am, I could definitely relate that with the case that I studied, and also like you mentioned in the beginning, that our culture gives too much importance to food, right? And keeping that in mind, there's a whatever you eat affects your body, but it also affects your mood. It's been known
Correct.
that if you eat good food, you are in good mood. If you eat food of your choice, you're in good mood, right? So can you just tell me like what all this connection is about? And like you mentioned that it can occur at any age, gluten intolerance, right? So like,
Yes.
is this dependent on any factor that it can occur in any age? And it has been
Uh,
observed that it occurs more in ladies only.
that is what. So once when we read, especially ladies, they go through when they are going through the perimenopause and menopause stage, especially if it occurs in the later stage for ladies, it usually happens. There is a lot of hormonal imbalance. So based upon your genetic structure and based upon your upbringing, everything, the choice of food which we eat, everything has an effect on your hormones. So when there is a less estrogen count, there is definitely a change. Generally, people, when they go through a menopause stage, they are mostly into erratic mood swings because low estrogen count, less oxytocin, less dopamine. And generally, because they are really going through all this, there is not much of a physical agility. So what happens is when there is not much of a physical agility, a sluggishness of metabolism sets in, and then you start feeling totally low with respect to wanting to try out to do anything. And on top of that, your stomach always feels full. It doesn't get digested completely. So the interest in life, uh, which is really connected with, oh, this food is going to elevate my mind, this food is going to pep up my mood. Anyway, I'm feeling so low, anyway my stomach is so full, why do I want to try? I don't know if that new food will create something different for me. As it is, after a long time I realized I have gluten intolerance. It is not just gluten, it is not just wheat, because we can't eat biscuits, we can't eat wafers, we can't eat any processed like sauce, cheese, and all those things. And uh, after a point, when the gluten intolerance continuously keeps working on your intestines, you also realize that you are not able to take milk, which is lactose intolerance. Now, taking not able to take milk, not everybody gets processed dairy milk or non-processed dairy milk. And it's very easy to preach and fad that you can have almond milk, you can have soya milk, you can have goat's milk, you can have different flavors of milk, plant-based milk. But can everybody afford that? No. So then how do you manage? You have gluten intolerance, you have lactose intolerance, and especially in a hot summer places like here, eating dahi, drinking buttermilk is a part of our system, our food edible culture. Every day you need to have buttermilk or dahi, or if you want to have pulao, again raita with it. So how do we manage? I can't have rice, I can't have lactose, I can't have gluten. So what do I eat? So I think we to elevate the mood, first one should start with dark chocolates. That's how I started. So you can't have anything. You can't have anything. You will go out when you're munching something, biscuits. I can't eat biscuits. Okay. Do you mind having tea? No, I can't have tea. So you are not a part of a social circle at all. Everybody is munching, eating something. What do you do? So I always used to carry a pack of dark chocolate, because when you're not eating the normal chocolate, again there is an element of milk in it, dairy. So again you'll feel bloated, you will feel like going to the restroom, irritable bowel. So the entire ecosystem of the purpose of where you want to go gets totally nullified. So start off with things which you like you can take peanut burfis, you can take some sweet and coconut made with jaggery, then you can take dark chocolate. All that really helps you to keep your mood, and then you try it out different foods. Okay, I am allergic to, so what, jowar flour, you can mix jowar flour, you can mix sabudana ka flour. But some people you can mix ragi flour. So I used to make my own gluten free flour, trying out. But the one element of non-gluten flour, when we try it out, is it would not have that binding factor. So when you make roti, to do it, when you bale it, it's going to break it. And that's so frustrating, because you only have to make 2 rotis, and to make 2 rotis, you will take 20 minutes. Now, who has the time when you are working, especially to make 2 rotis, 20 minutes? Okay, let me eat the normal roti itself. So it requires a lot of discipline. It requires a lot of mental stamina to really, for me, the key is you acknowledge it, everything falls in places. So for the binding factor, then we realized that there's something called edible xanthan gum. So you mix that with the non-gluten free flour to maybe half spoon or something like that. And then mix the dough with the lukewarm water. And then you make it. It more or less 60% tastes like roti. So then people start feeling, okay, I'm really eating roti, but it's not as bad as what I thought it would be. So then they slowly are okay with trying out different steps. You can eat ragi semia, you can eat rice-based semia, like we make in South Indian seve. I don't know if you know, it's a rice-based noodles, idiyappam. So all that really helps. Akki roti. So it's just that you need to try it out different and whatever suits you. And now, if people can't afford the plant-based milk, Amul has introduced lacto-free milk. It is not really expensive, because the thickness of the liquid is so high that when you buy it's that one tetra pack is 25 rupees. So when you buy one tetra pack, it can go for 3 days for buttermilk, dahi, and tea. So it's really helping me, other than the almond milk and cashew milk, soya milk. Some people don't like the smell of soya, because gluten intolerance also initiates nauseated feeling. Perpetually, you will be feeling nausea. So when you try out of soya, there will be a gag reflex. So then people will say, okay, let me not try out plant-based milk at all. Let me move to normal milk. And that is not going to help you. So I think baby steps.
Baby steps, yeah. That is what is required, I think, in almost every field and in
So if I
everything
have to
that
wrap
you
up,
do,
it's a
right?
baby step, and carrying your favorite food made with jaggery and dark chocolate and anything will help you to cope with trying out different foods in the social functions.
And ma'am, just what we have discussed till now, I'll just, take a different angle to this topic, wherein I have studied that the foods that contain gluten, they have also been shown to increase the anxiety in already anxious people. So do you think
Yes,
if the people,
definitely. Because when you're anxious, you're hyperactive, okay, and your brain processes information. It doesn't process, actually. You receive information, then you don't filter it, because you're already started processing it, and then there is an output. So when you have gluten intolerance, there is this brain fog. So there is this disconnect with the present now, and what is it that you want to do. So when there is this disconnect, I am already hyperactive, I'm already anxious. And if you see anxious people, their breathing is usually very rapid. And even with gluten intolerance people, every 5-6 breath, they'll take a deep breath. So it's like a combination of gluten intolerance. If you're not very careful about it, it increases your anxiety, it increases your hyperactivity, it increases your brain fog, it decreases your ability to filter the important information which is required and give a better output. So it's a combination. So it is like receive and react. So it's like impulsiveness. And when you're impulsive, you are really very restless. And especially when you're on a social gathering, if a person is impulsive and restless, most of the adults are aware of it. So when they're aware of it, what they would do is they start being fidgety. They'll start playing with their hair, they'll keep shaking their legs, or they'll keep shaking their head, or their eye movements will be rapid, like nystagmus. It keeps moving because they want to showcase that I don't want people to know I am anxious. So all these fidgetiness starts cropping in because you're already anxious. And also when you go to a common outside place, social gathering or informal meetings, there will be this, okay, lunchtime aa jayega, what can I eat? There will be so many people around with me. So the anxiety already starts setting in even before they get into the food table. So what happens is there is this perennial anxiety. One, because they're already anxious. Second, because of their intolerance. And because of their lack of ability to know how to handle it. If they are careful about their food, the anxiety level will be little less. So they'll be able to regulate. But a combination of those is like a deadly venom. It will definitely not allow a person to be themselves. They will be totally a different person, like it'll be a split personality. When they are at home, they will be like angel and thing. The moment they come out of home, they'll say, oh, is that person like this? I never knew. So uh, it'll be like devils and angel taking different roles, if you have to talk about personality types in psychology. And you will be frustrated, you'll be yelling at people, you'll be irritated. So all that goes.
I think you have beautifully wrapped this whole concept of being gluten intolerant and what all one has to face with it, and how to overcome the mental health issues that come along with it. So it was really beautiful to have this discussion with you, and you could wrap this up in so little time, and I think it will be really great for our viewers, because this is going to go up on YouTube, right? So it will be really great for the viewers who actually require help, but probably due to the stigma which is attached to certain conditions, be it physical or be it mental, they'll be able to take help from your experience and what you have discussed with us today.
I'll just want to tell one take home message for everybody who's into that is first start acknowledging and take ownership that you really have gluten intolerance. And then do not worry about how people are going to accept you as gluten intolerance. Very difficult for family people and your friends to accept you and see that you're not eating a lot of things, but you're eating certain things. And also believe that when you can take the time as a breadwinner of the family for cooking different foods for so many people, I think self-care and self-health and our mental health is the first thing. So spend that extra 10 minutes or 15 to 20 minutes in your kitchen to cook the food what suits for you, so that you can take care of all others around you. That would be my mantra. And again, please keep a watch on your body signals, and then be in sync with it, and be mindful of what you're eating and what you want to become at the end of the day, so that you lead a very balanced and nurturing life, not for just for yourself but for everybody else. And thank you everybody. Thank you Aparna, thank you Savreen and Shriya for being a very good sport and joining with me and bombarding me with different questions so that I could give an overview. It's a huge ocean. I have just given a drop of that ocean. Hopefully, as uh, days goes by, we'll be able to have a better discussion on that. Thank you so much. It was really nice to share my personal experience, an outlet for me. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. And whatever you said is going to act as words of wisdom for us all, right? So thank you so much on from our behalf and from Thurai Foundation's behalf. It was really great to have you here.
Okay, good luck, girls. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye. Take care.